O.H. Skinner from Alliance for Consumers joins me on the Middleton Ford hotline to talk about it. They're all left-wing. Maybe we should start paying attention to law schools in the United States. Just a crazy idea I have in the back of my head. Good to have you.
Well, thank you for having me on, Vicki. Yeah, I mean, I think the most important thing for people to understand is you've really framed it really well, which is there's a whole category of woke lawfare in the courts. And, you know, one thing that we focus on at Alliance for Consumers is you've got these law firms, these, you know, you see them on your billboards all across your state. Most of them give 99% to Democrats. And they're the ones pushing the lawsuits to take the products off the shelves that you like or to force everybody to buy an EV. You know, they're engaged in this ongoing campaign to change our society. And then they turn around and when they win money, they pour it back into your judge races. They pour it back into your political races. And it's all to one side.
It's 98%. There's actually an analysis that was done of how many hundred law firms. The best you could find, the best you could find that were in balance was that in a handful, and I mean literally a handful of law firms, larger law firms, 25% made contributions or made a 25% contribution to Republicans, 75% to Democrats. Otherwise, it's 99, 98%, all pouring into left-wing policy, left-wing lawfare.
And it's getting worse, right? So what you're describing is this law professor at Notre Dame put out a report. He's been tracking this for multiple elections, right? So he looked at Obama, he looked at, you know, at Trump and Clinton. And what he found is if you look at the 100 biggest law firms in America, 12-1, the donations went to liberals. You know, what he found is over across the whole 100 law firms in America, some of these firms have thousands of lawyers, 92% went to Democrats. And to your point, only 6 of these firms even saw 25% go to Republicans. Then he looked at the billboard lawyers that you see, you know, the ones like Morgan & Morgan on the billboards around your state. And there it was 99, 100, 99, 100. They're all on team left wing. And so it's no surprise that the lawsuits you see in courtrooms across America all look left wing, right? Because all the lawyers bringing them are giant left wing political donors. And that gets back into your point that it's like it's a machine that they are running. And you have to be aware of it because, you know, it's the lawyers around you that, you know, they might have, you know, a local looking ad, but they're giving 99% of their money to one team and not the other. And you wouldn't know it if you didn't pay attention.
Yeah. But, you know, we assume the trial lawyers are liberals because they are in the lobby in Wisconsin's left wing. But what I don't think people understand is that this is all working to create a picture of a bigger puzzle of lawfare. And it's not just a nuisance lawsuit against, you know, somebody who's trying to do a money grab and they're filing a lawsuit against, I don't know, some car dealership or something like that. It's bigger than that. We have it in Wisconsin, and now it is embedded in our AG's office, where we have a left-wing lawyer whose sole goal is to file environmental nuisance complaints against farmers in Wisconsin based on carbon dioxide or nitrogen emissions or whatever. That's going on now against our farmers. So, you know, you can say, oh, well, you know, I might not ever need a personal injury lawyer, but it's not. That's not what we're talking about here. This is the problem with the law itself and the way we teach people to represent the law. And the law is being taught to be represented from strictly a left-wing point of view.
And you've got to recognize that it's not, they're teaching people the left-wing point of view, you're dead on. And it's not just about personal injury billboard lawyers, you're dead on. But let's use those examples you just flagged about suing farmers. The left is losing more places than they're winning at the ballot box. So they're turning around and they're using lawsuits and lawfare to reshape our society. It's not just suing President Trump. It's not just suing somebody else. It's, to your point, farmers aren't following the left-wing, you know, progressive dream that a California farmer. Okay, let's sue the Wisconsin farmers and try to get them to live like we want them to live. Let's sue the car company so they make the cars we want them to make. Let's sue the company that makes the plastic bottles because we don't want anybody to have any plastic bottles anymore, right? They're just targeting people in an effort to win the fights that voters just said take a hike at the ballot box, right? So they're turning to the courts and this lawfare campaign to mess with your life in your house or your job or your farm.
or your First Amendment, Second Amendment, whatever rights. I mean, we're talking about left-wing lawyers going after Scarlett Johnson, Moms for Liberty, for accusing a teacher of being woke. And she actually got dragged all the way through, including into an appeals court, because left-wing lawyers were working on she seemed like small potatoes, but the message it would have sent to other people was to sit down and shut up and stop complaining about these things. She was one person in southeastern Wisconsin. What do we do? What do you do to undo this? It seems to me our problem maybe begins not with, necessarily the donations, so that's just the end result of the problem, but the way we teach the law. Because I don't know of a campus I can identify that is not, lock, stock, and barrel down the woke chute and looking for ways to hide rather than to just come clean and be about, decency and freedom.
Yeah, every single one of these states is a little bit different, but let's just look at your state. It's pay attention to your law schools. It's recognize that the courts are the front lines. And so whether that's voting in your judicial elections or whether that's making sure that anytime we, conservatives have a lever of power, that they're making sure that they are stopping this woke lawfare, right? Because to your point, it's full spectrum, right? It's about your Second Amendment rights. It's about your First Amendment rights. And I love your farmer example because most people think, who's suing farmers why? And then the answer is because they're not going to let any part of your life get out of their control. And the courtroom is where they want to do it. So, the law schools is a great place to start. And you're right, the political donations, they're just downstream. But it's understanding that the lawsuits you see are all part of a coordinated effort to reshape your life.
Yes, these aren't one-offs.
So
these aren't enterprising. These aren't enterprising actions. And in fact, I suppose if you actually wanted to open up a multi-state civil rights investigation, you could probably find a lot of these. Sometimes, they look like low-level law firms participating in it, participating in coordinated lawfare to silence speech, to change the law, using a lawsuit to find the rigged judge. By the way, something you said that's very important and we don't pay attention, and that is local judicial elections. Judicial elections, it's free shot on goal for the left. Every single time there's a spring judicial election, the conservatives are fixated, it seems to me, almost exclusively on statewide or federal elections. We aren't doing too well in Wisconsin here on that one lately. So we're fixated on things that are not, that they're higher profile. We don't have our deep-pocketed money people saying, what can we do about the nonsense going on with the judges? We don't have anyone wanting to say endow a chair with a donation at the University of Wisconsin for some kind of federalist-oriented legal, school where people could, learn constitutional law and learn it the way our founders intended. We don't have any of that taking place. And then we scratch our head and wonder how Soros has his way with us.
Yeah, and it really comes down to you got to pay attention because the courts are now the front lines, and you got to recognize that it's all coordinated, right? The money is a side effect. They want to change your life, and then they're going to give the money to the politicians to keep changing your life. But at this point, they're intending to take away what you've got, ruin your farm, take away your rights, whatever it is, all through the courts right now. And so the more people can pay attention to that, the more they pay attention to exactly your point, your schools, your courtrooms, your local battles. That's the best chance you have because that's where they intend to absolutely dominate your life.
It's so true. And unfortunately, it's really boring blocking and tackling stuff that we just have not been doing. AllianceForConsumers.org, AllianceForConsumers.org. Thank you very much for joining me on the program. O.H. Skinner.
Have a good rest of your day.
You as well, and we'll be right back.